Being in the spotlight doesn't mean safety. This year, some well-known names died in ways that were strange, tragic, and hard to explain. These aren't just sad stories, they're disturbing, confusing, and in some cases, still surrounded by mystery. In this video, we're going to look at 5 real cases of celebrity deaths that shook the world for all the wrong reasons. It was December 24, 2024, in Aspen, Colorado. Lynn Ban, a 52-year-old jewelry designer and Netflix reality star, was spending the holidays with her family. Known for her bold jewelry and high-profile clients like Rihanna and Beyoncé, Lynn also appeared on Bling Empire New York, a show about the lives of wealthy Asian Americans. She was well known, but more importantly, she was deeply loved. That morning, Lynn went skiing, something she'd done many times. She was careful and always wore a helmet. But at the top of the slope, her ski caught on something and she fell forward, hitting her face. It didn't seem serious. She stood up, skied down on her own, and only complained of a mild headache. Ski patrol checked her for a head injury and didn't find anything urgent. But one paramedic suggested she go to the hospital for a scan, just to be sure. Lynn agreed and left with her husband, Jet Kane. At the hospital, doctors found a brain bleed. It was serious. She was rushed by helicopter to a trauma center for surgery. Lynn underwent a craniotomy, where part of the skull is removed to ease pressure on the brain. She was sedated and remembered waking up in a hospital bed after the procedure. A few days later, she posted on Instagram. The photo showed her half-shaved head, a long surgical scar, and hospital equipment around her. In the caption, she wrote, "In a blink of an eye, life can change." She thanked the medical team, the ski patrol, and her family. Despite everything, she was thankful to be alive. The post received an outpouring of support. Friends, fans, and fellow cast members left encouraging comments. Dorothy Wang said she got chills reading Lynn's message. Christine Chu sent her love. Many admired Lynn's strength during such a difficult time. It looked like she was recovering, but that recovery didn't last. Lynn stayed quiet on social media after her post. She returned to her home in Tribeca, New York City, where she continued to heal with her husband and their son, Sebastian, by her side. Then, on January 20th, 2025, everything changed. That morning, Jet found Lynn unresponsive in bed. Emergency services were called, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. She was 52. 2 days later, Sebastian shared the news on Instagram. He wrote, "My mom passed away on Monday." He said Lynn had wanted to share her journey after surgery, so he felt it was right to let her supporters know. He spoke about who she was, his best friend, a loving mother, and someone who stayed strong through recovery. He said she kept smiling until the end. Sebastian included photos of his family, moments of joy and closeness. He described her as the funniest and coolest mom and promised to keep her memory alive. "I love you more than life itself," he added, a phrase she always told him. The reaction was immediate. Rihanna commented, visibly shaken, calling Lynn their fairy godmother and saying, "This is too much." Dorothy Wang shared a message directly to Sebastian, remembering how Lynn always lit up when talking about him. Lynn's passing affected many. She had spent over 25 years in the fashion world. Her work had been featured in Vogue, Elle, and W magazine, and worn by stars like Madonna, Cardi B, and Kendrick Lamar. Born in Singapore, she left her mark in cities like New York, London, and Paris. Her time on Bling Empire New York was short but unforgettable. The show premiered in October 2022 and followed successful Asian Americans in New York. Lynn stood out not just for her fashion, but for how much she loved her family. Her co-stars described her as both bold and kind. Her death came months after fellow cast member Anna Shea passed from a stroke. For many fans, it was another loss that came too soon. Lynn's fall wasn't reckless or extreme. She followed every safety step. She even got help right away. But not every injury can be fixed. Her last post showed someone full of hope, but behind that, she was still facing something serious. In the end, she passed peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by loved ones. She is survived by her husband, Jet Kane, and their son, Sebastian. It was October 16, 2024, in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Liam Payne, the 31-year-old former member of One Direction, was staying at the Casa Sur Palermo Hotel. What happened during his last hours would become one of the most unsettling celebrity stories in recent memory. Liam had traveled to Argentina with his friend and part-time manager, Rogelio Roger Norres. It was supposed to be a short, uneventful trip, But what took place in his hotel room pointed to something much deeper. Liam had been going through serious private struggles. According to court records, Liam contacted two women, Aldana Serrano and Lucila Goitea, through a site offering adult services. They arrived at his hotel room around 11:30 a.m. They later told investigators that Liam was using a crystal-like substance and drinking whiskey. He asked them to help him get more drugs, but they both refused. The three were intimate, but the mood soon shifted. Liam's behavior became erratic. He smashed a watch and the TV, leaving the room in complete disarray. Foil with burn marks and scattered clothes were found around the room, and there was a strong smell of alcohol. After about 2.5 hours, he told the women to leave. They left but returned shortly after for belongings they'd forgotten. By then, Liam seemed calm. He apologized and even got on his knees asking for forgiveness. Later, a toxicology report revealed a concerning mix of substances in his system: alcohol, antidepressants, and several synthetic drugs. His blood alcohol level was extremely high, enough to cause serious confusion and disorientation. Witness accounts helped piece together his final day. Michael Fleischman, a tourist at the same hotel, saw Liam around 2 p.m., acting upset and shouting in the lobby. He was arguing with a woman about money, at one point saying, "I'll give you $20,000 just because I can." The hotel manager had to step in and translate during the argument. Fleischman didn't realize who Liam was until after the news of his death. That day, a 911 call was made, warning that Liam was acting out and possibly under the influence. Hotel receptionist Esteban Grassi said Liam had called the front desk many times, asking for alcohol and demanding substances. When they said no, he became verbally aggressive. Phone records and security footage showed Liam had been in contact with two hotel employees, Brian Pays and Ezequiel Pereira. Prosecutors later said they sold him drugs twice. Pays denied this, claiming they only used drugs together socially, but messages showed clear exchanges of money and plans to meet. In one text, Liam offered $100. Investigators confirmed that Liam went to the front desk to ask for cash, likely to complete the deal. Authorities also found that Pays lived in an area known for drug sales. Though Pays said he didn't profit from it, the court disagreed. He and Pereira were arrested and could face up to 14 years in prison. Meanwhile, a psychiatrist had warned Roger Norris that Liam's mental state was getting worse and that mixing substances with medication was extremely risky. Still, police ruled Liam's death an accident. He was likely unaware of his actions when he fell from the third-floor balcony. The autopsy found multiple internal and external injuries. The UK inquest labeled the cause as polytrauma from the fall. Several people were charged at first, including Norris, Grassi, and hotel manager Gilda Martin for negligence. But after months of investigation, the court cleared them. There wasn't enough proof that they had helped Liam get substances or contributed to his condition. Judges ruled that while Norris may have failed to support Liam emotionally, he couldn't be held legally responsible. Liam, they said, was an adult capable of making his own decisions. Two people, Pays and Pereira, remain in custody awaiting trial. One tourist who saw Liam fall, Brett Watson, later told TMZ it was something he would never forget. Security footage also captured three men helping Liam back to his room shortly before the incident, one of whom was identified as Grassi. Liam Payne's story didn't end with music and success. It ended with a troubled journey that few saw coming, and even fewer could stop. It was January 3, 2025, in Los Angeles, California. Jeff Baena, a respected filmmaker and writer, had been living alone since he and his wife, actress Aubrey Plaza, quietly separated a few months earlier in September 2024. Their relationship had always been private, but the separation marked a difficult time for Baena, one that ended in tragedy. Baena and Plaza had been together since 2011, after meeting during a game night. They connected over their love for movies and later worked on several films together, including Life After Beth, Joshi, The Little Hours, and Spin Me Round. In 2021, they got married in a small backyard ceremony. Publicly, their relationship appeared solid, but by late 2024, things had clearly shifted. According to a report from the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner, they had separated in September. Plaza moved to New York while Baena stayed in Los Angeles. In October, Baena made some troubling comments during a conversation with Plaza. Concerned, she asked a friend to check on him. After that, Baena began therapy. He didn't have a known history of emotional struggles, and those around him hadn't seen signs of anything serious before. But his close circle started to worry. He had no known issues with substances, and toxicology reports later confirmed there were none in his system. However, Baena had been dealing with chronic sleep issues. Experts say long-term lack of sleep can affect a person's emotional well-being. The night before January 3rd, Baena and Plaza spoke on the phone. Even after separating, they had remained in touch. That final conversation didn't raise any alarms for Plaza. The next morning, she received a text from Baena that seemed normal. At 10:25 a.m., Baena's dog walker arrived at his home. She had been coming regularly and knew his routine, but that day she noticed loud music coming from inside. That wasn't typical. She knocked and called out to him but got no response. Worried, she let herself inside. What she found was heartbreaking. Baena had passed away. She quickly took the dog outside and called emergency services. When authorities arrived, they confirmed his passing and started their investigation. They found his phone placed on a step between the stair rails. There was no message or note, but the phone's placement might have meant something. The house was undisturbed. There were no signs of forced entry or any kind of struggle. Aside from the music, everything was quiet. The final text he sent to Plaza was at 7:36 a.m. local time. By the time the dog walker arrived, it was already too late. Plaza fully cooperated with investigators. She confirmed their separation and said Baena had started therapy in October. Though he had been struggling emotionally, there were no signs of immediate risk. No recent concerning behavior had been reported. The medical examiner ruled his passing as self-inflicted. His therapist, whose name wasn't shared, confirmed that Baena had been attending sessions regularly. Baena's family and Plaza released a short joint statement calling it an unimaginable tragedy and thanking those who reached out with support. They asked for privacy. Baena had a long career in film. After studying at NYU, he worked as an assistant editor and co-wrote I Heart Huckabees in 2004. His directorial debut came in 2014 with Life After Beth. He continued with Joshi, The Little Hours, Horse Girl, and Spin Me Round. In 2021, he and Plaza created Cinema Toast, an experimental series for Showtime. Outside of work, Baena was known for bringing people together. His game nights were a regular event in his circle and showed the same warmth he brought to his film sets. Friends described him as generous and deeply collaborative. His funeral was held privately on January 10th in Miami. Plaza did not attend the Golden Globes, which happened just 2 days later. During the event, filmmaker Brady Corbett honored Baena during his speech. Jeff Baena was 47 years old. It was February 19, 2025, in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Carl Cochran, a 61-year-old guitarist known for working with legends like Kiss and Joe Lynn Turner, was sitting in the passenger seat of a 2015 Subaru Legacy. His 90-year-old mother, Arna Cochran, was driving. They were on private property when something went wrong. While backing out across the front yard, the car lost control and hit a tree. The crash was so severe that Carl was thrown from the vehicle. Emergency responders arrived at the scene around 7:20 a.m. He was airlifted to Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, but he didn't survive. His passing shook the music community. Carl was more than just a performer. He was a teacher, a producer, and someone who made a lasting impact on others. In 2014, he had suffered a serious stroke that put him in a coma and affected his ability to move and speak. But instead of stepping away from music, he adapted. He continued playing, teaching, and producing music from his home studio. He also remained a regular guest at the Kiss Cruise, where fans described him as warm, strong, and full of life. Despite his health struggles, Carl never gave up. His career in rock music began to rise in the early 1990s after moving to Los Angeles. He started working with Joe Lynn Turner, the former frontman for Rainbow and Deep Purple. Carl joined Turner's band and co-wrote several of his solo songs. Then, in 1994, Carl joined the solo band of Ace Frehley, the original lead guitarist for Kiss. He toured with Frehley from 1994 to 1996, and later co-wrote the track Into the Void for Kiss's 1998 reunion album, Psycho Circus. That song was a major step in his career and earned him recognition in the rock world. Carl continued to grow his career. He became part of the Eric Singer Project, a group that included Kiss drummer Eric Singer, Bruce Kulick, and John Corabi. Together, they recorded Lost and Spaced, an album of classic rock covers. In 2000, Carl brought back his own band, Voodoo Land, and released a self-titled EP and a full-length album called Give Me Air in 2004. He also played in a Led Zeppelin tribute band called Hindenburg, performing in bars and clubs across New York and New Jersey. But everything changed in 2014. At just 50, Carl suffered a stroke that nearly ended his life. He woke up from a coma with limited movement and speech, yet even then he kept going. He turned to music production and teaching, passing on what he knew to younger musicians. One of his students, Billy Wilkins, spoke about the impact Carl had on his life. He started taking lessons from Carl at 11 years old. Carl encouraged him, brought him to live shows, and helped build his confidence. Billy remembered how even with limited use of one hand, Carl could still play guitar in a way that amazed everyone. Tributes came pouring in after Carl's death. Kiss posted about him, praising his strength and calling him a talented guitarist and vocalist. Paul Stanley shared a photo of himself with Carl. Bruce Kulick called the news gut-wrenching and described Carl as a gentle giant who remained full of love and strength, even after his stroke. Joe Lynn Turner, who had worked with Carl for years, shared personal photos and called him a brother, friend, and partner. He said Carl's absence would leave a lasting hole in his heart. Carl's fiancée, Ger Fasano, also posted heartfelt tributes calling him my forever. Carl Cochran's life was full of challenges, but he never stopped doing what he loved. The accident that took his life was sudden and heartbreaking. He had already fought through so much, but this time there was no coming back. He is survived by his mother and his fiancée. The accident is still under investigation by local authorities. Carl Cochran's loss left a deep mark on the music world and on everyone who knew him. It was June 5, 2024, on the small Greek island of Symi. Dr. Michael Mosley, a 67-year-old British TV presenter and health expert, had arrived the day before for a short vacation with his wife, Claire Bailey, and a few friends. That morning they spent time at Agios Nikolaos Beach, relaxing by the water. Later that day, Dr. Mosley decided to walk back to their accommodation on his own, a trip just over a mile and a half. He brought a small bottle of water, a rucksack, an umbrella, and a hat, but he left behind his phone, worried it might get wet. He seemed in good spirits and didn't mention feeling unwell. Known for taking on physical challenges and exploring health topics through his work, Dr. Mosley's decision to walk didn't raise concern. But just 2.5 hours later, he was gone. Security cameras helped trace his path. At 1:42 p.m., he was seen walking past a cafe in the village of Petty. He appeared again minutes later near a local restaurant, and then at 2 p.m., he passed a house near a trail to Agia Marina. The walk should have taken only a few minutes, even in the heat, but something went wrong. Instead of following a direct path, he seemed to wander the area. At one point, he leaned on a wall, appeared unsteady, and stumbled out of view. He chose to take the inland mountain route, which is known to be rough, rocky, and exposed. Local guidebooks describe it as misleading with little shade. Temperatures that afternoon were extreme, and heat alerts had been issued. Though he had some water, the heat may have quickly become overwhelming. He eventually reached an area close to Agia Marina, a beach resort. But instead of heading to the bar just 260 feet away, he turned toward a rocky spot behind a fence. He collapsed there, out of view from beachgoers on the other side. The search for Dr. Mosley lasted 5 days. His disappearance launched a large-scale effort, involving helicopters, boats, and rescue teams. His wife and their 4 adult children, Alex, Jack, Dan, and Kate, joined in, retracing his steps. On the morning of June 9th, Symi's mayor, Lefterios Papakalodoukas, spotted something unusual near the beach while on a boat. He alerted staff at a nearby restaurant. A waiter named Ilias Tsavaris went to investigate and noticed a glint, a wristwatch catching the sunlight. As he got closer, he made a tragic discovery. It was Dr. Mosley lying face up just meters away from the busy resort. Emergency services were called. Firefighters arrived by boat and began carefully examining the scene. His rucksack was found nearby. Photos were taken, the area was closed off, and his body was later taken to Rhodes for examination. An autopsy found no signs of injury, harm, or criminal involvement. Toxicology tests came back normal. Authorities believe he may have collapsed from heat exhaustion or an unexpected health problem. The official cause was recorded as unascertainable. It was also revealed that Dr. Mosley had taken only 1 liter of water and a biscuit with him. Without a phone, he had no way to call for help. His decision to walk alone in such heat, even for someone as fit and experienced as he was proved dangerous. What made the story even more painful was how close he had been to safety. He was hidden behind a fence, out of sight from people just feet away. Even rescue helicopters flew above without spotting him. Dr. Mosley was known for making science accessible. His shows like Trust Me, I'm a Doctor, and Eat Fast and Live Longer helped many. He was curious, honest, and deeply committed to sharing knowledge. His experiments, though sometimes extreme, were always aimed at helping others understand the human body better. After his passing, his wife Claire described him as kind, funny, and brilliant. She thanked everyone involved in the search, especially the locals who helped without even knowing who he was. His agency and longtime colleagues praised his impact and character. We may never know exactly why things took a wrong turn that day, but we do know this. Dr. Michael Mosley spent his life helping others live better. And in the end, he left behind a story that reminded people just how fragile life can be, even for the strongest among us.